Welcome to HortTube, where we talk all things gardening. My name is Jim Putnam, and this is a Soft Caress Mahonia. This is Soft Caress Mahonia, an evergreen shrub that gets beautiful yellow flowers in the late fall and winter. Soft Caress gets wider than it does tall. It might reach 3 feet in height and probably 4 to 5 feet in width. Mahonia are best in zone 7 to 9. If you had a protected space like a shady foundation in zone 6B where it was out of the winter wind, I certainly would try this plant. Soft Caress would have a moderate growth rate. After it's been in the ground for a year, we might get 6 inches of growth out of these in a year. We're going to get more width than height. Soft Caress would prefer a half a day shade all the way down to shade. I think this plant performs best when it is getting a few hours of direct sun, either early in the day or late in the day. It tends to be a little thin if it's in really dark spaces, but it will grow in those conditions. Soft Caress would make a great foundation plant on the shady side of your foundation if you have lower windows and you want to keep something that's 3 feet or lower. Mahonia make fantastic understory plants. You can put this where you've got some existing trees. They're great at competing with tree roots that are already there. You will have to do some ongoing watering if that's where you're planting them, but it's really nice to have something that keeps its leaves in a wooded space and then it blooms at such an unusual time in the winter. The main features of Soft Caress Mahonia are, number one, if you've ever grown any other Mahonia, like Mahonia bealii, the leaves are very, very spiny. These have very narrow leaves with no spines on them. So this plant is much more friendly. It's definitely more friendly to bare feet because I've stepped on Mahonia leaves with bare feet before and they're not very nice. The other main feature of this is it's going to flower in mid to late fall with really bright yellow flowers. This is mid-January when I'm shooting this, and so that's finished on this plant at this point. Here's the tag on it, and you can see the flowers on it. Also, Soft Caress stays much smaller than Mahonia bealii. It's going to make it a much more friendly foundation plant, much more easy to maintain, and it stays quite a bit fuller. The other varieties can end up very thin at the base and kind of leggy looking, which is fine if you're naturalizing them, but not necessarily great for foundation planting. I've included some videos on planting in the description of this video. You want to be really careful if you're planting this plant as a foundation plant on a shady foundation. Typically that's the area of your foundation that's going to stay wet. This plant, although it's very shade tolerant, is not necessarily wet feet tolerant. So make sure if you're putting it in a space like that you're mounding it up and you're not over mulching it. Mahonia are very drought tolerant. If you were putting this plant on a foundation, once it's established after that first year, I don't think you'd have to do a lot of watering on it. Almost never if you're in an area that gets kind of normal rainfall. Obviously, if you're naturalizing this plant though in an area that's where you already have existing plants and maybe you have it's in the understory of trees, that's a space where you may want to set up a drip hose or something like that as you're planting these so that you can plug it in and water more easily later. I would definitely fertilize a Mahonia in mid-spring. The new foliage on this plant's great, and you can encourage more of that with any kind of slow release fertilizer for outdoor plants, maybe mid-April. If your Mahonia needs to be pruned, I would do it late winter after it's flowered, and you can take a lot of height out of these with just a few cuts. They have very few vertical branches. It's a really, really easy plant to maintain that way. It does get berries where you have the flowers, so the years you're pruning it, you're not going to get the berries. So keep that in mind. If you're pruning it and you need it 6 inches smaller than you're trying to keep it, I'd go ahead and cut it a foot down, and that way when it comes back out, you won't have to prune it the next year. Very few pests on Mahonia. Occasionally we'll see some scale insects on typically more stressed or older plants. Haven't seen it on Soft Caress at all. You definitely would be visited by root rot on this plant if you planted it on a foundation and put it on an automated irrigation system. Almost certainly you could love this thing to death for sure. I would let it dry out between rains and waterings and you should be fine with that. And like all Mahonia, it's considered deer resistant. So what are you waiting for? Even you can grow the low maintenance, shade loving, yellow flowering Soft Caress Mahonia. Thank you for watching my video, and if it was helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Also comment below with any questions you have about Mahonia. Thanks again.